Hello, viewers. I'm glad you're here today. It's time for Mockly Talk. Time for me to talk to myself about Mockly. And today's topic is Nuruk. Is Nuruk unsafe? So, Nuruk is the fermentation starter that's a required ingredient for making traditional Korean alcohol for fermentation. It's a fermentation starter, and it's made by growing mold on some kind of substrate, often wheat. So it's mold based, and that does scare some people. How can growing mold on something, how can that be safe? So in this video, what I want to do is reassure you. So as a hobbyist, I want to explain why I'm not worried about Nuruk, whether it's commercial Nuruk that I bought at a store or homemade Nuruk. I think I'll be able to convince you why you don't need to be afraid of Nuruk. But nevertheless, as with any kind of food, there are food safety issues. So I will give some tips on the food safety precautions you should take when working with Nuruk or making Nuruk at home. Okay, so that's today's topic. So my first task is to reassure you about Nuruk. So I'm not a food safety scientist. I'm just some guy on YouTube. And even if I were a food safety scientist, it's really difficult to say 100% blanket statement about food safety. There are always conditions and situations. So first I want to address why you are worried about Nuruk in the first place. Well, it's because Nuruk is the result of growing mold. So you're intentionally growing mold. And in the case of Nuruk in particular, it's growing wild mold. So this is to be contrasted with koji. With koji, koji is inoculated with spores from a particular kind of mold, and it's the intention is not to have it contaminated with any other kind of mold. So koji is intended to be a single strain of mold. So there's more control in the manufacture of koji. Even at home, if you're careful, you should just have one kind of mold if you're growing koji. On the other hand, Nuruk is wild, so there's a wide variety of microbes in Nuruk. Maybe that's why you're more concerned about Nuruk than koji. And there's a reason to be concerned about mold. That's because some kinds of mold produce harmful toxins. And you have a valid reason to fear mold in general. You don't want to just be ingesting random mold. In particular, aflatoxins are the most notorious toxins produced by mold. And I don't want to alarm you, but it is true that aflatoxins have been detected in Nuruk. Okay, so that explains why you're concerned in the first place about Nuruk. Nuruk is the result of growing mold. Some mold does produce toxins, and in fact, some of those toxins have been detected in Nuruk in elevated amounts. Now I'm going to explain why I am not worried about the food safety of Nuruk. And it's because there's been no reported cases of Nuruk harming anyone in Korea. And it's easy to find cases of food products being recalled in Korea for aflatoxins. For example, for beans or peanut products, and in other countries on corn. There have been aflatoxins have harmed people. So it's relatively easy to find cases of aflatoxins harming people, but it's never involved Nuruk. So that's the first piece of information. But the thing is, I did mention that aflatoxins were detected in elevated levels in samples of Nuruk. So given that, why am I Why am I not worried? Well, it's because any aflatoxins in the Nuruk, it's not generally passed on to the wine made with that Nuruk. So that's an important consideration. You're not directly eating the Nuruk. That's one of those safety things you would be wise to follow. You don't eat Nuruk itself. It's used in the production of rice wine. Don't eat the Nuruk directly. So that's the important consideration. You don't consume raw Nuruk. So that's the difference with koji. Koji, you can eat some koji raw, but do not eat raw Nuruk. And when you make wine with it, the fermentation process of the wine actually reduces the amount of aflatoxins. Both the yeast and the lactic acid bacteria do have the capability of breaking down aflatoxins. So I'll put links to everything I talk about in the description so you can look it up for yourself. So the point is, even if aflatoxins are present in the Nuruk in elevated levels, they're not present in significant levels in the rice wine that's produced from the Nuruk. So that's why there's been no reported cases of problems with Nuruk, even though it's a traditional, it's the fermentation starter used in Korea for thousands of years. And it's not, there are no reported cases of Nuruk harming anyone. So that's why I'm not worried about commercial Nuruk or the Nuruk I make at home. But there's still some common sense precautions you should take, so just common sense food safety precautions you should take when working with Nuruk or making Nuruk. The first being, don't eat raw Nuruk. And the second thing is not to breathe in yeast or mold spores. So when working with Nuruk, some of the steps of producing Nuruk, you're scraping off the mold from the outside surface of the wheat cake. Wear a mask. I know you have a mask. You should wear it in that case. You don't want to breathe in large amounts of mold spores. There are always small amounts of mold spores in the air, but you don't want to breathe in a lot of them at once. It's going to irritate. It's going to be irritating for sure. So you know not to do that. Wear a mask when and do it in a ventilated area if you're scraping off mold from your Nuruk. And also, when making your own Nuruk, don't use old, expired grains or flour, because those could start off with some bad mold on it. So don't use expired grains or flour, and use the minimum amount of water necessary to make the wheat cake hold together. And when humidity is high at the beginning of the Nuruk production process, but don't allow drops of water to fall on the wheat cakes. And monitor for any mold colors other than white or green, and discard any pieces that are growing any other color of mold. Okay, so the main reason I feel safe is because these are traditional processes that have been done for so long, and there's just no reported cases of harm from Nuruk. Even though the process involves mold, and some molds do produce toxins, these toxins don't end up in your wine. So in the end, this is a safe process. Just follow the common sense food safety tips to not breathe in those mold spores, and you'll be okay. So I hope that explanation makes sense. Please enjoy your hobbies. Don't be afraid of making Nuruk if that's what you want to do. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and thank you for watching.